violated now in November. Well, now look.
Hi everybody, so awesome to see you all here today. We are the voice of New Zealand. We need everybody here to stand up. We cannot sit in silence. We've been sitting at home in silence, watching our rights be eroded day by day, week by week, being told that we need to be good, we need to be afraid, and everything will be okay. Well, it's been a big lie. It is not all going to be okay unless we all stand up and say what we want, because we live here. The government are supposed to represent us. They do not choose what they want to do to impress overseas entities and their international, multinational friends. They are our representatives, and they need to learn that really, really fast. I'm calling it COVID-gate from now on. When I first heard about COVID, of course, like everybody else, I was concerned. Nobody wants to die from a horrible virus from some country that we don't hear much about. Of course we don't. And as the Outdoors Party, we actually put out press releases saying the borders should be closed now, shut the borders and learn what the issues are, and then we can work out what to do safely. But instead what happened, we were told that the borders were shut. We were told that they were shut for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we had friends, one of our board members was an international pilot, and said, when I go into Singapore, everything is locked down and my temperature's taken every 5 minutes before I go anywhere. I come back into New Zealand, I just walk back in and go home and do whatever I like. Absolutely ridiculous. If they had have shut the borders when they first talked about shutting the borders, which was way back in February, the start of February, the 2nd of February, and they were talking about shutting them in England and other countries in January. If they had have done that, this whole issue would have been avoided. But what happened, they didn't do what they should have done, and then they completely overreacted. The world experts in England declared that coronavirus and COVID-19 was not a highly infectious disease. And after they declared that, our government suddenly decided to take these extraordinary steps and basically turn New Zealand off, lock us up in our home. Everything was back to front. There's absolutely no logic about what was done. The only correlation I can see with COVID and ill health from my research is the places that have 5G radiation have very high incidence of deaths from COVID. And the people that have flu vaccines have very high incidence of death from COVID. And what is our New Zealand government doing? They're doing the opposite. They're telling our sick, vulnerable people to go out and get the flu vaccine. And we know from international research that there's a much higher incidence of harm if you have been vaccinated with the flu vaccine, because your body hyperreacts. And the problem with all of the coronavirus vaccines that they've tried to develop over the last 10 years or so with SARS and all these other coronaviruses is that it looks like they've got a vaccine, and then when people get exposed to the virus afterwards, they get a hyperimmunity reaction, this cytokine chain reaction, and they potentially die. So the whole philosophy with the vaccine thing is screwed up. The whole philosophy with the 5G is screwed up as well. On behalf of the Outdoors Party, I lodged a formal complaint with the Regulations Review Committee in Parliament back in January, saying that the New Zealand standard, which was written in 1999, was completely out of date, completely irresponsible based on the information that we knew then compared to the information we knew now. Back in 1998, it was an outdated standard. And back then, we knew that it only protected against what they call the heating effects, not all of the biological effects, not the hormone effects, not the harm to DNA. Since then, in 2011, the World Health Organization has recognised that radiofrequency radiation can cause brain tumours and other cancers. Yet our New Zealand standard does not protect against that at all. It doesn't even try to protect against that. And yet we've had cell towers rolled out in our streets with an exemption from the Resource Management Act. If you want to put up a sign outside your house, you need a resource consent from the council. If telcos want to put up a cell tower outside your house, they don't. It's insanity. Absolute insanity. So we had our complaint lodged in Parliament in January. They accepted our complaint. They agreed that we had legitimate issues. We had a hearing penciled in for the 29th of April. And what happened? It got postponed because of COVID lockdown. And while that was postponed, the telcos were given free licence to roll out cell towers anywhere they wanted in New Zealand without any controls whatsoever. We were locked in our home. People were waking up in the morning going, hey, that wasn't there yesterday. All over New Zealand, everywhere, hundreds of them. Yeah, look, the whole thing. The only way I can understand what the government is doing is if you say, on the hypothesis that they're not acting for us, they're acting for another agenda, another purpose. If you try and say, how can they be acting for us and doing the things that they're doing, it simply doesn't work. You cannot reconcile the actions that they're taking. So I'm a lawyer, most of you know. I've got a background in science. I used to actually be a health protection officer, which is the job that does the contact tracing from infectious diseases. So I've got a fair bit of an idea about how all that works as well. And I know how fraught the system is, and I know how politically influenced the system is. A lot of good public servants wanting to go and do their job, but just get absolutely intimidated because they know they've got no career if they stand up and ask questions, if they've got a different agenda to the government. So it's the whole system is heartbreaking. I've done a lot of quite challenging cases in court, and sometimes we win. We got a former Supreme Court judge forcibly made to retire from the Supreme Court because he forgot to mention that he owned a racehorse stud with the lawyer for the other party. And even then, we had to go twice because the first time our Supreme Court, our highest court in New Zealand, couldn't understand what our problem was. And then they said, after we got him forcibly retired and the Judicial Conduct Commissioner said that there should be a full and public inquiry, then they said, oh, well, it shows the system works. We can all relax. Well, no, the system only works when enough people stand up and make a big enough fuss and ask questions and keep asking questions. It's awesome that everybody's here this week, but we need everybody to keep asking questions, because otherwise we ask the questions and then they go, oh, everyone's got away now, they've all gone back to their other activities. We've got to keep asking the questions and getting our friends to come along, and more people every week, so that they know that we're serious about this. We've got an election coming in September. It is a perfect opportunity to get everybody talking, and it doesn't matter who you want to vote for. Ideally, I'd love it if you will vote for the Outdoors Party and for me. But the most important thing is that we hold everybody to account. We ask them the questions about what is your policy on these things? What is your policy on democracy, on human rights? Are you happy with the government rushing laws through in 24 hours that let the police come into our private homes? No. Does anybody even know that that law went through this week? I posted up on Facebook on Tuesday, and people coming back saying, no, that's not possible, that's not how it works, it's processed with consultation. Some people were quite abusive, saying that I was misleading people. Well, no, by Wednesday night we had a law correcting the flaws in the previous law. So under the emergency legislation, they didn't have the power to do all those things. So they passed a law now that the so-called emergency is finished to say that they can do all those things. So it's just one thing after another. Now, there's just a couple of things that people have always been asking, what can you do? There's a whole lot of things that we can do, and we must do them. We must hold police and everybody else to account. Look, the police here are good guys. I don't know who saw the video last weekend. We had a really good conversation with them. They were embarrassed too. How embarrassing to be told to go out and enforce laws that aren't laws. You know, I'm sad for the police that they were ever put in that position, and they're good. Look, they haven't hassled us today, it's brilliant. But we do need to hold them all to account. If they come to your home, ask them why they're there. Ask them to give an explanation of what powers they're exercising. Video the whole interaction. And it is so important to video the whole interaction. Tell them you do not consent to them coming into your home. And if they do whatever they do, keep a record of it all, get legal advice as soon as you can from somebody, a lawyer that understands the issues, not just a lawyer that's never dealt with that, and just ask questions, share your video, just hold them to account. The same with our politicians. Every single politician should be getting 1,000 letters a day from the community saying, why did that law go through? What happened to New Zealand? How can this be that our democracy can be so fragile? A lot of people are already working with us to develop a people's constitution for New Zealand, because what most people don't realise is that New Zealand, we have no bottom line in our rights, not written into the law. It's always been a trust thing. We've always trusted our government to look after us, and it's very clear now that we cannot trust our government anymore because they're not looking after us. So we're going to need to write the rules for them. We've got a Facebook page, Let's Create a People's Constitution for New Zealand. It's been a little bit quiet because I've been doing a whole lot of other things, but that's all going to come together, and it's a place for people to join together and support each other. Annie's set up a great page here. Reopen New Zealand NZ protest, so she's been sharing information about where people are going. We need to share all this information. We need to ask all of the candidates for the next election, will you support a people's constitution for New Zealand? And if they won't, why would we vote for elected representatives that won't agree to what we want? You know, it doesn't make any sense. So we've got a chance to do that. What I didn't realise until very recently, the elected campaign, they go around New Zealand telling us you're going to do this, that and everything else. Then the first day in Parliament, they swear an oath of allegiance to the Queen. They don't swear an oath of allegiance to us, they swear it to the Queen. And so one of the other things that we're really keen on in the Outdoors Party is educating people so that everybody understands their rights and how all these systems work. Because if we don't understand our rights, we don't even know what we can do. So look, there's thousands of things that I can talk about because this is like a huge, huge can of worms. The one thing I will just want to say, because it's really important, this law that they slipped through on Wednesday, it's really a bad law. It was a bad process, and it's an abusive process. It does, however, have a few little gems in it that we all need to know, because the purpose of the COVID-19 Public Health Response Act 2020 is to prevent and limit the risk of an outbreak of spread of COVID, taking into account the infectious nature and potential for asymptomatic transmission, but it also any response must be coordinated, orderly and proportionate. Now that proportionate is a really important word. It must be proportionate to the risk. So they cannot just randomly exercise excessive powers. They must always be able to justify what they do. So that's why it's so important that we keep records of everything that happens, because we will take the government to court on this. I mean, I was hoping we wouldn't have to, but it's clear that we're going to have to. So we have to challenge every angle, and we have to hold them to account, and we have to find out why the government is doing what it's doing. We go to court, we don't always win, as some of us know, we don't always win, but what we do is we force them to explain what they've done. We get their paperwork, and with the information comes power and the opportunity to hold them to account and do better things. So sometimes it's a fast process, sometimes it's a slow process, it's a hard process because this has been going on for a very long time. And we are now, it's come to that critical point that we're realising just how bad it's got. But we've got to make a stand. We are the voice, we are the people. We have to hold them to account, or we basically have nothing left. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Andrew, who's going to talk in about 10 minutes? Go repeat this. Got a few words to say, and then we'll get everybody to move off in an orderly way.
Thank you, Sue. We are very, very happy to have you be part of Nelson, and what an asset you have been on so many fronts. Now, most of you here are obviously aware of the issues, and so it is not my purpose to speak to the converted Sue has done a great job of pointing out the details of a lot of the issues involved here. So basically, I want to just paint broad strokes. Most of you can hear from my accent that I was not born here, but I consider myself, I've been a citizen most of my life now. I consider myself to be a patriot to New Zealand. Not to any cast of characters currently in any government, but to New Zealand, to this magnificent, bright, beautiful land and its people who have proven to me to be decent, honest,
He's turned Sue into a support act.
that I can.
Don't worry.
That's
About
a
Where I came
stagecraft.
from,
Yeah,
people
okay,
don't
but don't
trust
worry
each
about
other, and that's what's happening to us today. And the people of New Zealand have been the greatest part of this country for me. And with a temporary glitch now, they've also, I believe, can be the wisest. Now, I came here at a time when New Zealand was inspiring me. I came here a couple of days after David Longy had his Oxford Union debate and debunked the morality of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology. So I came here when New Zealand went nuclear free. I came here when the police captured 2 foreign agents blowing up the Rainbow Warrior. That was inspiring. What happened subsequent to that was not very inspiring for those agents going back to a parade in France. I came here and I saw